pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
On behalf of the Town Council and myself, we welcome you today to the town's sesquicentennial celebration. Before we begin, I have just a few things to say, and I promise they won't be long. When people speak of the town of Orange, they may call it a railroad town, a courthouse town, a historical town, but today we call it our town. The place we live, the place we have lived. We raised our children, went to church on Sundays, watched or played sports as we were a child, started our first day of school, waited by the depot to wave at trains filled with soldiers, had our first paying job here, drove a car for the first time, and even snuck that first kiss here. We met the loves of our lives here. We made lifetime friends. We lived through a depression and just recently a pandemic. Today, no matter how you identify with our town, we're all here to celebrate the 150th birthday of the place we call home, Orange, Virginia. So, that today, thank you. So let today be a time to share stories, visit with old and new friends, enjoy the activities here at Taylor Park, and make memories to pass on to the next generation of our town, whether it be 5, 10, 15, or 100 years from now. As our celebration logo says, Orange, it looks good on you. It won't be a party without you all, and so let's start the celebration.
You know, 150 years of history doesn't come without challenges. Let's look back no farther than November 8th, 1908. A raging inferno raged the town. I remember talking to Chuck about this a long time ago, destroying homes and businesses alike. The entire community came together using buckets of water to try and stave off the fire until the assistance came by rail from Charlottesville. And it is only through the resilience and fortitude of the people here in this town that allowed them to rebuild and restore what was lost the following years. The evidence of what resilience, determination, and a little elbow grease can do surrounds us today. It takes us and makes us who we are and determines where we go. And just like we're here today because Orange has a history worth honoring, I believe that America has a history worth honoring. I believe that America has founding principles and a constitution worth honoring. That protection of basic liberties, like the right to free speech, the right to bear arms, and the right of religious freedom. These principles These principles that I speak of make our Commonwealth and our country today exceptional. Unfortunately, we're living in a time when some folks ignore or shun or want to destroy our history, and it's important that we look back to our forefathers, not to emulate the principles or that they upheld, but to learn from the mistakes that maybe some of them have made. You see, nobody's perfect. I, for one, will tell you, I'm not perfect. I know that. I've spoken to many of you about a lot of different issues, and we may not agree on those issues, but we believe in the common good and that we're trying to do the right thing. The values that make us a free society, those same very values that have run so deep here in Orange the last 150 years, I've defended those values for you in the Senate, and I'm proud to stand here today along with all of you to celebrate Orange's rich history. From Montpelier to the Wilderness Battlefield, the very roots of our nation and its history are buried right here in this town and the surrounding area. We the people have a responsibility, though. Not only are we tasked with preserving our history, but it's our duty and our privilege to pass it along to the future generations that will succeed us. You see, these responsibilities are the one and the same, and neither can be accomplished without the other. I encourage you to take your children to the James Madison Museum to show them the battlefields and St. Thomas Church where Robert E. Lee once worshiped while encamped here during the winter of 1863. Or the home of Tuskegee Airman Andrew Maples Jr., who broke boundaries by becoming one of the first African-American fighter pilots during World War II. Teach them the values, appreciating history, just as our parents taught us, and many of you, and show them that the actions of our past dictate the course of our future. I ask you to do this not only as your representative, as your state senator, not as a political candidate for office, but as a father and a citizen of this great Commonwealth. You see, we have been blessed by God to live in an area with such rich history and with individuals such as yourselves that are dedicated to remembering and honoring those who stood before us, who came before us. Thank you for taking the time with me today. Thank you again for coming out today to celebrate the rich history of 150 years that this town is tied so closely to, especially to the founding of this great United States we are so blessed to live in. Please take time today to chat with a member of the Orange Historical Society or visit a local museum. We must always remember that without the sacrifices of our forefathers once made here in the town of Orange, we would not be able to stand here today. God bless you all. Thank you so much. Whereas, there'll be a lot of whereas in resolutions. Whereas the town of Orange, a vibrant and growing community in the north central Virginia Piedmont region, celebrates 150th anniversary of its incorporation as a town in 2022. And whereas Orange traces its history to 1749, when Orange County was formed from part of Culpeper County for several years in the region, now therefore be it resolved by the House of Delegates and the Senate conferring that the town of Orange hereby be commended on the occasion of the 150th anniversary of incorporation, and it further resolved further that the clerk of the House and the clerk of the Senate prepare a copy of this resolution for presentation to the town of Orange as expressed as an expression of the House of Delegates and the Senate confirmation, the admiration for the community's rich history and contributions to the Commonwealth.
The town of Orange has its roots at this place in the mid-1700s. When the county court began meeting here in 1749 and a courthouse was soon established, this small community began to flourish as a courthouse town. Orange's courthouse had previously been located near Somerville Ford in the north central part of the county. The coming of the courthouse marked the beginning of the upward trajectory of Orange as a town, especially when court was in session in the fall and spring. It was then that the variety of small farmers, gentlemen landowners, merchants, shopkeepers, and enslaved persons mingled with each other and began to develop common bonds. Likewise, some of the citizens took an interest in the town's future. In March 1834, after receiving a petition from a number of Orange residents, the Virginia General Assembly passed an act to incorporate the town, but this legislation failed to be implemented and Orange remained unincorporated. But it did not fail to flourish and grow. An account from 1835 tells us that our community included over 50 houses, 2 brick churches, 9 mercantile stores, a girls' academy, 2 schools for children, 2 hotels, and almost 24 shops including blacksmiths, cobblers, jewelers, cabinet makers, and the like. A newspaper was also printed at Orange, so we can all see that Orange was no sleepy little town. Orange was one of the most prosperous locales of its size in the central Piedmont. After about 20 years, in December 1855, the General Assembly again revisited the status of Orange and passed a second act to formally incorporate the town. The act stipulated that for the legislation to go into effect, a majority of the eligible voters within the limits of Orange, which is about 50 acres, must give their consent or petition the county to hold an election. Apparently, most of the locals were satisfied with the official status of the community as they failed to make this petition, and again, Orange was not incorporated. Finally, in March 1872, the requisite number of eligible voters signed a petition to hold an election, and on June 3rd, 1872, an election was held and the town of Orange was officially incorporated. This marks the date that Orange achieved the milestone that we are celebrating today. From that point on, the town continued to thrive. You are probably asking yourself, what do these events that I just described have to do with today's town of Orange, and why should they be important to me and my family? Well, let me offer you this. A recognition of our local history connects us all to this place and provides us with a better understanding of our place in that history. An understanding of our history provides a context that informs not only our present, but our future. An understanding of our history provides a buffer against ignorance. An understanding of our history provides us with a necessary cultural anchor across time and space. An appreciation of our history provides a jumping-off point to be of greater effective service in our community today. In essence, if we understand and recognize our history, both individual and collective, we are then well equipped to make better choices about how we can interact with the community around us and how we can influence our world to meet our collective needs. I want to issue all of you a serious challenge. If you are not currently engaged in this community, then I challenge you to do so by exploring the history of this place and learning how its people, events, circumstances, and objects contribute to its story. Connect with and tell the story of Orange. In closing, let's reflect on the 1835 words that Joseph Martin wrote of our town. Orange remains a place of unqualified promise. This statement is still true today. However, we as the current stewards of this place and its collective memory must continue to work to bring this promise to fruition. Thank you.
I appreciate you allowing me to share some of the history of African Americans in this area, and particularly in the town of Orange. Blacks were in this area from the beginning of settlements. Orange County was a place of many plantations and lots of slaves, including my family, which I have traced back to the 1700s. In 1860, according to census records, the population of Orange County was slightly above 10,000 people, of which 6,000 were blacks living on or near plantations. Less than 200 of those blacks were free. Around 1860, free slaves used their skills they had learned to save money and acquire land. They divided properties, sold to other free slaves. They built homes, raised families, and as a result, more than 20 small black villages sprang up throughout Orange County. Remnants of these villages exist today, such as Little Petersburg, Jacksontown, Tibbstown, Mount Pleasant, Mount Level, Musterfield, Flat Run, Shady Grove, Geetown, Clifton, just to name a few. I grew up in Little Petersburg. I am among the last generation that grew up in one of these villages during the period of segregation. A common story from these descendants of these villages was that education and religion were priorities, and it's evident because each one of these communities came together and built a church and they built a school. Located in the town of Orange was one of the largest of these settlements. It was unique because it was a segregated residential community located in the middle of a commercial district along Railroad Avenue, Church Street, Mill Street, Robinson Street, which was formerly Tin Cup Alley, and the entire Lindsay Drive area. It was an active area with black businesses until late 1960s and the early 70s, when many families moved due to several factors. The most notable was the Route 15 bypass that was constructed as a result. Most of these homes were removed. 2 churches served this village. Nazareth Baptist Church, established in 1861 when a plantation owner gave permission to a group of slaves to have religious services. Later, it was moved to an area of Orange known as Sandy Bottom, and finally its third present location built in 1874. Also, Emmanuel Baptist Church, across the street, it was established in 1910, and the building was completed in 1913. There were 2 Negro schools in the area, one near Pretty's Funeral Home, and later the graded school, or the Rosenwald School, which is located across from Prospect Intermediate School, and then finally Prospect Heights Elementary School, which operated until schools were fully integrated in 1967. There were many successful black businesses in this town. The residents worked at local businesses, factories, farms, restaurants, schools, to name a few, and were consumers. The African American story in the town of Orange is rich. It has a proud history, and we embrace that history. Throughout the month of June, the Orange County African American Historical Society is celebrating Juneteenth. 1 week from today, June 19th, we will be dedicating a commemorative park in the center, in the corner of Chapman and Church Streets. We will be unveiling an interpretive panel that will begin to tell the story and the history of this village and to recognize the contributions of African Americans and to this community and to this town. Mayor Roby and town councils, I want to thank you and the citizens of this town of Orange for supporting this project. And again, congratulations to the town of Orange, all of its citizens, on its 150th anniversary. And may God bless this town of Orange, the place that I call home. Thank you.
At this time, we are going to talk about our time capsule. But if you can think of something that you feel is important and needs to go in the time capsule, there's still time to contribute that. The only thing we have to remember is it needs to be kind of small, because we are sharing this with the county and also with the James Madison Museum, so we need room to put it in there. So these are a few of the things that are that are available to go into the time capsule now. We have from Ray Lonick, his mayoral desk plaque. We have business cards from town employees and elected officers. From Jan Hammond, we have the Dolly Madison yearbook, the Orange County Review dated June 2nd, 2022. From Edgar Krebs, a commemorative coin, Masonic Lodge, number 228. 2022 roster of membership. From Mike Saxton, commemorative coins, family group picture, invitation to a family birthday party. Phil Odebear. Phil has put hours, countless hours, into a video recording of people giving their interpretations and their memories and their dealings with the town. And he has provided this with in a Ziploc drive, which you need to do that too if you have anything that's going to be played. His memories and visions and his interviews are there. An autographed softball from the Orange County High School girls softball team, regional champs this year. Items from the, yes, definitely, they need recognition. Also, we have to have a mask for the pandemic in there because everybody knows about that. We have a Town of Orange lapel pin, a set of the sesquicentennial coins, the program of the opening ceremony, a copy of the proclamation recognizing the 150th anniversary, the letter from Senator Mark Warner, and from the Orange Volunteer Fire Department, I should say company, my husband will correct me on that. We have one of their patches, and we have 3 pictures, one of the apparatus, one of former fire chiefs, and a picture of the membership. So if you can think of anything that you want to add, please let us know. There is time to put it in there, and we will be glad to work with you for that.